Hello, travel friends. In this episode, we're going to be doing something a little different. We'll be talking about the best countries to travel as a solo female. And I think that this is the best study out there for several reasons. They combined several factors in their calculations. So one is people's perception about how safe it is to walk. Then they added a component of crime statistics. And then what makes this the most unique one is that they put in calculations for cultural and societal,
Norms.
norms and like perceptions of women, right? Like women's rights, equality, feminism, like all that kind of stuff. So, and they ranked these countries. And I think it's very, very intriguing. So let's look at the most dangerous countries first before we talk about the best countries to visit. The most dangerous: South Africa, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, Iran, Dominican Republic, Egypt, Morocco, India, Thailand, Malaysia.
I haven't been to all of these countries, but as a solo female traveler, I have frequented a few. So obviously Mexico, Thailand, and then Malaysia. I felt pretty safe in Thailand overall. So I was a little surprised that they were that high on the list when it came to, I think there's certain areas in Thailand, like maybe islands, that I understand why it might be that way, but I'm not surprised to see Malaysia on the list.
So that's interesting you say that, because if you look at other lists, Thailand is usually stated as being very safe. I think the reason why this is negative for Thailand is because they brought in those cultural and societal norms.
Yeah.
So again, this is like very, very interesting, this paper and this report, is because it not only looks at like what's your safety level as a solo female, but also like how comfortable it is for you to be there at, as a female in that country. So I think that's very cool. But yes, I think like Thailand is usually considered very safe on lots of other polls.
I do think them adding in the societal norms is really interesting because, especially when you go to Malaysia, it really impacted me as a solo female traveler. I couldn't walk around alone at night. I had to really plan out my days. If there weren't groups, I wasn't able to just go out for a solo dinner and feel safe. So that aspect is really interesting, and I do agree with it. I do believe that that really does have a really strong impact as a female kind of gallivanting around the world alone.
So let's go down the list. So the higher the number of the country, the safer it is, right? So let's go down. USA is number 19.
That's so interesting.
So we're pretty on the more dangerous side.
Yeah.
Well, I think the U.S. is like a big country, right? So you kind of have your good safe spots, and then you also have your like less safe and maybe a little bit more shoddy spots. So number 19. So then we're just like rolling down. Japan, interestingly, is 31, right? Out of 50, right? 50 being the safest country on this list. Japan really, really surprised me. I always thought that Japan would just be super, be near the top 5 of any list for solo female travelers.
What's the red button?
So, yes, so the reason Japan is so low is because, what is this red button here, the red marking, is their global gender gap.
That makes sense.
Right? So it's like you're taking into account, equality and stuff. So I think that
does tie in with Japan. A lot of women aren't in the workforce once they start families. So I think that ties in. It is different from my thoughts. Again, I was in Japan, and it was I would say it was like the second safest compared to Singapore.
Yeah. So their crime rates, if you look at the dots to the left, is more of like crime rates and like how safe you feel. Yeah, I think Japan does very well with that, and I think that's your experience. And again, I think like a lot of polls really reflect that you go there, you feel really, really safe, But what really knocks Japan from, the top spots is their societal differences between males and females, or men and women. Very cool, right? Very interesting. Sweden, right? I thought Sweden would be higher on this list.
I'm a little surprised Sweden is below the UK, to be honest.
Yeah. See, the UK scores really highly on, the equality aspect of it. Okay, let's do the most safe. Spain. Yeah, I just think it's a little surprising. Not that I think Spain is dangerous at all.
Yeah.
But if you look at a lot of other studies, a lot of polls, like what is the safest country to visit as a solo female traveler?
I wouldn't think Spain.
Right. I don't think, you would rarely see Spain in the top 5, if not the top 10. I think that's why I think that this study is very, very remarkable, and bringing in that element of the culture and the society.
This does track really well, though. As I mentioned, I think Singapore is one of the safest places I've been. I think there's a few reasons why. They are very strict on a lot of things, like chewing gum, but they're also strict on crime. So you don't want to break the law there. So it was very comfortable. I also do agree. I lived in Ireland and it always felt so safe. Still a little surprised that Spain is number 1, but I've lived in Austria, in Ireland, and then visited Singapore, and all 3 of them are places that I've always felt very comfortable and very safe.
Yeah. So let's go from basically the safest down, right? Spain, Singapore, Ireland, Austria, Switzerland, Norway, Portugal, Croatia, Canada, Poland, United Kingdom. I've been to most of these places, and I'm sure you've been to a lot of these places too. Croatia surprised me. I think that as so high up there. And again, not that there's anything remarkably dangerous about Croatia, but again, just like when you think about the safest places to visit, Croatia is not high on a lot of lists, especially not over Japan.
We'll link the study, obviously. I think this is really great reference point for all the female travelers out there, because when I was going on a solo trip for several months, I asked a lot of people. I was already very familiar and comfortable with Europe, so I'm not that surprised with the European countries being on this list. I do think that they're more familiar. You're not going to feel as much culture shock as you might in some of these other countries. But one of the things I learned was I chose to go to Asia, and I now, after being there, when people are asking me, if they have a gap year or right after college, hey, I'm traveling alone, where should I go? I usually say certain Asian countries, because one, it's just so different. It's a really good opportunity for you to spread your wings as a solo traveler, but it's also very safe. So when you do look at the top 10 and majority of them being in the EU, it does counter a lot of my real life experience now. But again, if you're playing it safe with comfortability, it makes sense that a lot of these are in the EU.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hope this was
enlightening.
Or useful or thought-provoking. If you like this kind of content, let us know in the comments below, and we'll make more stuff like this. And please like and subscribe if you want to see us again. And happy, safe travels, everyone.